Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DiJulius. John, the title of today's episode is intentionally provocative. The customer service department is dead. And before anyone panics, we aren't suggesting that companies should stop serving customers. We're asking whether customer service can continue to exist as a department that owns problems created throughout the rest of the organization. So let's start with the contradiction here. Organizations frequently say customer experience is everyone's responsibility. We say that. It sounds good. But when something is everyone's responsibility, it can quickly become no one's responsibility. John, what does enterprise-wide ownership of customer experience actually look like? And how do you prevent everyone owns it from being an excuse for having no real accountability?
Yeah, I don't know if everyone owns it has been misconstrued. It's certainly, in the past, customer service was thought of as a department, contact center support, phones, or where people go to place returns and put out fires. But customer experience, the client experience, has to be an ecosystem of all departments. But there needs to be one person that owns it. And over the last 25 years, this chief experience officer, chief customer officer was the fastest growing position in corporate America. Now that has evolved and has changed in the past 5 or 6 years. And I couldn't find, I found conflicting reports on Claude with the position, and people are changing the title, and it's there's so many titles now, but there has to be a champion, and it can't be the CEO. Mid-sized companies, I've seen the CEO say, I'm also the chief experience officer. The CEO, president, owns everything, which means you don't own anything. And that's why you have to have, head of IT, head of I think it's called, I forget what the title is, chief revenue officer, which is a head of sales, chief marketing officer, IT, all those. And you have to have a head of the experience. Now, what I like about the companies that are doing it really well, they still have a chief experience officer, but that experience isn't just over the customer experience. It's over the employee experience. HR reports to it. It's over the vendor experience. It's a whole ecosystem of experience. Someone has to lose sleep at night over the experience the company's providing. So,
who do you think should ultimately be accountable then? I mean, it's just whoever you select, whoever.
Yeah. I mean, the chief experience officer. So we just recently did a podcast with Jessica Shannon, chief experience officer of Sandals. And that's exactly what her job is. It's all experiences roll up to her. So she has to make sure that customer experience journey, the guest, the employee experience journey. And she had a great line that she used in the podcast, hire to retire. So the journey from hiring all the way to hopefully they're retiring, that they have to manage that experience. And then too often people forget the vendors are a customer and need to be treated like a customer to, have a successful relationship. We need our vendors. Every company's going to need their vendors in hard times, but also in good times, to make sure you're getting a great experience back from them. So I believe there needs to be a champion. The most successful businesses have a champion of the experience.
Most successful companies have that champion. They have some, like Sandals has Jessica. What about companies that maybe aren't as big? Or you said you found conflicting evidence on Claude when you did an AI search about this. Does the future service-centric organization still need a chief customer officer or customer experience department, or should that function eventually just become embedded throughout the business?
I don't think it should ever be embedded. Now, there is, you're right, with small, medium, and large corporations. I don't want anyone, that's a mistake everyone made, is everyone ran out and hired, or a lot of people, too many companies ran out and hired a chief experience officer, chief customer officer. And as soon as the economy, struggled, a recession comes, that's the first position that got cut. So it's really important that there's a job descriptions tied with KPIs, ROIs, ROX, return on experience dashboard, what that job should look like so it's clear what that individual should be doing, or team. Now, huge companies, Starbucks, the Chick-fil-A's of the world, even Price Waterhouse, they do have a customer experience department that is underneath the CXO, but that's huge companies. When you're mid-size, and even smaller, that has to be a shared position. You probably can't justify a chief experience officer by itself, salary and all that. So you crawl, walk, and run with that, with, head of HR or training or whatever that may mean. You start, giving it bandwidth and hours committed, but you got to be very careful. So because if you have, 10 priorities, or if that individual has 10 priorities, they have none. Right? So there has to be a few priorities that they lose sleep over, that they're causing everyone else to lose sleep over, including senior executive. Someone has to be at the table, pounding on the table, that this policy, this change, this product, this sales, structure that you're implementing could be hurting the experience, not helping. AI.
Great point. And we see a lot of, I would say, different roles that attend our Customer Experience Executive Academy. So they're not all CXOs. They are people that hold other positions within their organization, correct?
Yeah. I mean, it started with that, and that's what I thought it was going to be. But some of our really visionary clients like New Day or Key Bank or, so many others sent multiple people, like in some cases dozens, over the course of years, back of the house support, non-facing customers, because they knew that it had to be that ecosystem of, and not silos. They're working together to see the part that they play, that their teams play in supporting the frontline operations and all that. So
in our conversation here, I want to get into what happens if you don't have someone selected. But first, I want to go back to, you brought up AI. And I think this debate becomes more urgent when we look at what companies are doing with AI, right? It's something we're all using these days. In 2025, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, said the company had reduced its customer support workforce from approximately 9,000 people to 5,000 as AI agents began handling roughly half of its customer interactions. But Gartner predicted in February of this year that by 2027, half of the companies that attributed customer service headcount reductions to AI would rehire people to perform similar functions under different job titles. Gartner also found that only 20% of customer service leaders surveyed had actually reduced agent staffing because of AI. This gives us two very different visions of the future. Do you think, John, are companies using AI to design a better service experience, or are too many starting with a headcount reduction target and working backward?
Yeah, listen, I'm reading the same things you're reading and working on some blogs with the theme being AI fatigue and AI remorse. And AI is great. It's here to stay. It needs to, but people jumped on it as merely an efficiency and cost savings without understanding how it impacts the customer experience and the employee experience. So I love it for the tedious tasks, the minutia, but there is a lot of, I think, unintended. And when I say, I think, hopefully this was never, an intention, but unintended consequences. It has, the value of a human touch has never been more important now, and figuring out how to add, digital convenience without deleting the humanity is so important. So there's so many case studies that we'll get into where companies are reversing and finding that it's actually costing more to go AI than it was before they went all in AI. Again, I can't stress, I love AI. When used properly, it can make us more efficient, but there's also another unintended consequence that we'll share in a little bit of what it's doing to the workforce, the ones that are left, and that there's no replacement for the ones that are about to retire.
And Gartner, in that same article that I will put a link to in the show notes for anybody interested in researching the whole thing. Gartner found that 85% of service leaders are adding responsibilities to frontline roles, while 75% are shifting agents into entirely new roles. If AI handles the simple questions, what should human service professionals be responsible for?
Well, the enemy of a world-class hospitality experience is obsession with efficiency optimization, and hospitality is not an industry. Hospitality is the way we treat others, and that's government, that's manufacturing, that's business to business, business to consumer, professional services. So, Daniel Pink said this on a podcast recently. It's so smart. Right answers still matter, but smart questions have become a premium. We used to have search engines. Now we have answer engines. And when answers are everywhere, questions become the scarce resource. When we get answers cheap, curiosity becomes priceless. In a world of answer engines, curiosity becomes your killer app, because every breakthrough starts with a question, sometimes a weird question, and he uses the example of, how could I put 1,000 CDs in my pocket, the old Steve Jobs creation. So, the service aptitude skills are really at a premium today for a lot of things, because we're eliminating the entry-level position, and we live in a world that is relationship disadvantaged. So every generation has a decline in people skills, but more importantly, the 30 and under, at no fault of their own, don't have the inherent people skills that the previous generations were forced to have. So we're not going to find 30 and unders enough with those inherent. So we have to make sure our training helps bridge the gap, what they don't have and what they need to have.
That's a great point. So now companies are probably going to have to compensate appropriately for more complex work that humans are doing, that, having that particular skill set. What about, John, if AI is taking the simpler tasks and humans have the more difficult, more complex? They're probably also going to receive the angriest of the customers, the hardest problems. How do organizations prevent burnout with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point that actually I didn't even think of until, I was prepping for this podcast, that you're right. The design is now, if you can't get your answer, solution, refund, return within so many self-service clicks, chat bots, and you click to speak to a human being, that's, you're going to be really mad. So we got to make that a little easier. We got to make anything that's sensitive, anything that involves empathy, creativity, not just problem resolution, that is allowed for customers to interact with your experts. And for the experts, for the human beings, it can't just be the grudge buy, which is I'm mad because you guys screwed up. The order didn't make it. The deposit isn't in there. Whatever that may be, out of stock, whatever the business model is, that can't be the only time employees are getting, because that's going to wear. They're going to have empathy fatigue, and they're going to, the job satisfaction is just going to go, plummet.
We use AI within the DiJulius group for different things and repetitive tasks. So the AI might remove the repetitive work, but it may also leave employees with a steady stream then of escalations, emotional customers, high-stake decisions. The job of being a customer service person could become more meaningful, but also significantly more demanding then. Another shift that's happening outside the organization, July 2026, another Gartner study found that customers were approximately 3 times more likely to use a third-party generative AI tool than a company's own chatbot when trying to resolve a service issue. I found that fascinating. Among customers already using generative AI, 58% had used it to complete a task, not just find information. In B2B settings, that increased to 74. So customers may no longer begin with your website, app, salesperson, or contact center. They may ask their preferred AI platform to deal with your company for them. I think that's amazing, isn't it?
You do that 100% of the time, just as you brought that up. An hour before we got on, I needed a video that is embedded into my keynote / PowerPoint presentation. And I couldn't find where I downloaded it, but I know it's in a presentation. So I went to Claude and asked, how do I download a video that's embedded, right? I didn't go to Keynote. I didn't go to Apple, who technically, I should have, but I've done that so much every time, I had another problem where I could not shut off my screensaver from popping on every 3 minutes. And, I just went to Claude and asked how I did it and figured out in 2 seconds. So I'm not going to Apple or, the vendor, I'm using, I'm going, outside of it, but I'm getting my answer within seconds.
So what happens to customer relationships when customers stop talking directly to companies and send their AI agents to do it for them?
Well, here's the thing, and this has been historical. We've always had technological advances, maybe not at the pace that we are right now, but it's always been the case. And technological innovation is the shortest competitive advantage you could have. If someone comes out with a new app, if someone comes out with, whatever, that's the easiest for your competition to replicate. So that by itself is not going to be, a competitive advantage. When the world gets more artificial, we need to become more human. And one of the most powerful ways to stand out remains to be human. The human side of the business is even more valuable, and it's definitely one of the most overlooked competitive advantage. So in a Salesforce research, might be the same study you're quoting, found 80% of customers say the experience a company provides is as important as the service or products. I don't believe businesses need to choose between efficiency and relationships. The strongest organizations, have both, and they merge them and marry them.
Yeah. This sounds like it could be bigger than the move from stores to websites. At least a website still belongs to the company. But in this future, the customer's AI may decide which brands are considered, compare the options for you, make the purchase, and even resolve the problem. The company becomes almost invisible. We've been talking about doing a new website, and in researching that, I read somewhere that websites may become obsolete within this decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
scary.
It is scary. It is scary. So
it's a cost savings, but yeah.
But is it? Because then you're going to spend the money on AI, right?
Well, yeah, but man, talk about, it's killing your how you brand yourself.
Yeah. And whether that's true or not, and whether that happens, but I thought it was worth noting.
Yeah.
And for listeners out there, if this conversation's making you question whether your organization is truly prepared for the future of customer experience, we can help. We work with organizations to build customer service systems that create consistency, empower employees, and turn exceptional experiences into a competitive advantage. And what's important about that when you say, oh, the systems, when AI is happening, you have to have those systems to build the AI process on top of. To learn more, schedule a conversation, simply go to tdg.click/call, or you can always visit the website, thedejuliusgroup.com. All right, here's another uncomfortable question. In February of 2026, Pegasystems reported that 77% of consumers surveyed said they would always or often achieve better outcomes when dealing only with a human. 2/3 preferred human-led support, and 48% said they did not trust businesses that used AI to completely handle customer service interactions. Yet many companies continue making it more and more difficult to reach an actual person. Are we moving toward a world where access to a human becomes a premium service available only to high-value customers?
I think so. In the average and below average companies with customer experience, I do think they're going to charge for that, and it'll be a backlash. It's kind of like, when you go back to the Spirit Airlines and Frontier that, move into a world that, everything's a la carte, and, if you're a premium customer, you get these things, but you're paying for it. But again, there's no loyalty. The number one way companies create customer loyalty is the way you make someone feel. And an app doesn't make me feel special. The number one way, you create customer loyalty is when they like who they're dealing with. They believe in who they're dealing with. The person who they're dealing with excites them because their knowledge, their passion, they're employee evangelists. Employee evangelist means they love the industry they're in. They're geeks about customer experience or technology or finance or wealth advisory or law or whatever it is. And they're excited about the brand they work in. They're a brand evangelist, and they like who they do it for. They like helping people.
I can see companies being able to promote that you can reach a human, and it becomes a major brand differentiator.
Yeah, I mean, I remember this 20 years ago that there used to be ads, I don't know if it was on billboards or where I saw them, that if you call our 800 number, a human will pick up. Like that was when the automated phone systems came in, and you had to press 1 for this and 2 for this, and that became a point of difference. So yeah, again, the more digital we become, the more human is the competitive advantage, and great companies will weaponize that.
You have children that are younger generation. How do they feel about that? Picking up the phone to solve something versus trying to do it themselves online. Do they have preferences?
I don't talk to them about that. I'm sure they're totally convenient without having to pick up the phone. But it's a loneliness world. People don't feel as connected, and which means community is a differentiator. It's on its way back. It's what Starbucks is banking on everything, the third place, because people aren't getting it at work anymore. That used to be the one or two things. It was at work. But, if you think about why do you go to a sporting event live, football game, baseball game, basketball game, soccer game, look at the craziness of the FIFA World Cup that was just so successful. Or why do you go to a Coldplay concert or whatever, the Taylor Swift? None of it is a better experience from listening and seeing. I mean, nothing beats sitting on my couch and watching the game in a controlled, heated environment, get up and grab food as I wish, watching the replays, watching the game, there's nothing going to come close to that at a live event. Yet, depending on which sporting event we're talking about or concert, 50 to 100,000 people choose to have less of a spectator viewing experience, but the community. They're all there cheering on and being part of, one thing, right? And rooting for, and, being in that live performance of Taylor Swift. The community is so big, and that's one thing that hasn't declined. It's only gone up, is concerts and sporting events and things like that. And I think that's where the pendulum is going to swing back to brand experience.
That's a great analogy there. Yeah. There is something about attending an event live, not just seeing it live, but like you said, the community. So
you don't see it as well. I mean, unless you're one of the few people that get the front row courtside, seats, which, that's less than 1% of the 100,000 that are in the arena. You're not seeing it that well. We're all watching it on a jumbotron, right? That's not a good experience, but we're willing to pay the obscene amount of tickets and parking and hours lost in getting there and waiting in a parking jam after, because of that community, shared experience.
Yeah. And nothing like a soccer, football game live where you have the chanting and singing of the crowds. Love that. John, if customers trust humans more, but companies can serve them more cheaply with AI, whose interests should determine the service model?
Well, listen, the experience is, and the micro experiences, not the outcomes, is the leading indicator of customer loyalty. Micro experiences, all those minor little things, some of which can happen and be better at AI. But the advent of AI is accelerating the entry-level apocalypse, right? Everyone knows that. 2/5 of global leaders revealed that entry-level roles have already been reduced or cut due to efficiencies made by AI. The logic was seductive in simplicity: cut costs, move faster, shrink training budgets, let AI and a leaner workforce handle the rest. However, in reality, it's producing something else entirely. Flattened teams with little agency, with little autonomy, which that's the best part of our jobs, is that when we get to decide, we don't have to ask permission. We don't have to, out of my pay grade, all those things. Now there's endless cycles of rework and exhausted senior employees juggling all the task levels. What I mean by that is entry-level jobs are being removed. Entry level of accountants, financial advisors, consultants are being removed. We don't need people to do that. So example, in like the legal field, if you were a lawyer working on a case, you'd have a junior lawyer that would do case study, research, and all that to prepare for your argument. Well, now AI can do that in a second, but hollowing out the junior ranks, businesses are putting themselves squarely in the path of a slow-burning demographic time bomb as seniors begin to retire in record numbers. So from now until 2032, which sadly is less than 6 years, 18.4 million experienced workers age 55 to 64 with post-secondary education are expected to retire. But so over 18 million people are going to retire, but there's only 13 million workers, 16 to 24, who are entering with similar qualifications. So some examples of how people reverse. Uber's president, chief operating officer, Andrew McDonald, said in a recent podcast interview that it's becoming harder and harder to justify AI costs in the company. The company's chief technology officer went viral in April for admitting Uber burned through its 2026 Claude Code budget in just 4 months, the entire year's budget. Last month, Brian Catanzaro, vice president of applied deep learning of NVIDIA, suggested that AI use isn't actually saving companies from labor costs, and could be costing them more than humans currently. Could cost them more than the humans they currently employ. Right? I mean, so, Microsoft has raised concerns about the cost of AI. The company has reported begun canceling licenses for engineers using Anthropic's Claude due to high costs, raising questions about the cost of adoptions. These are AI companies. So economics differ widely in their beliefs about whether AI will actually lead to a job apocalypse, largely because adoption is happening more slowly than technological advancement. A recent study found that rapid advancements in AI capabilities are not translating automatically into broad economic gains or meaningful adoptions.
Recent company announcements illustrate two different ways technology can shape service. So Walmart described its approach as people-led, tech-powered. The company introduced AI tools for approximately 1.5 million U.S. associates, including real-time translation and technology that reportedly reduced shift planning time from 90 minutes to 30 minutes. Walmart has also reported that AI has reduced customer care resolution times by as much as 40%. And Walmart, my understanding is, has become really good at resolution and returns compared to what it may have been known for in the past. Starbucks has taken a similar position. Its Green Apron service model combines staffing, workflow changes, and technology intended to give employees more time for customer connection. In January 2026, Starbucks reported improved service times, stronger customer satisfaction, and average peak service of less than 4 minutes across its cafe and drive-through locations. These companies aren't presenting technology as the experience. They're positioning it as infrastructure that helps employees deliver the experience. So again, they have the systems like we talked about that we help companies create. They have those systems in place already and they're layering AI on top of it. Is that the real blueprint, an organization that becomes more automated behind the scenes so it can become more human in front of the customer?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And it's been working for Starbucks because they're coming up on their 2-year anniversary of the new CEO taking over and the 1-year anniversary of their theme Back to Starbucks. And, all accounts, KPIs show that it's working. So yeah, to remove minutia, the example I could give right now in our business with our clients and with our employees is when we do a customer experience cycle workshop, it's 8 hours and it's employees writing on the wall on flip charts. All right, at this stage of interaction from the customer's vantage point, what are the service defects that'll ruin the experience here that we want to avoid? What are the SOPs, operational standards? They list all that. What are the experiential that is our really signature experience? That's a memorable part of the experience that they will go home and talk about and that our competitors aren't doing. And then the final piece, what are the above and beyond opportunities that may present them? So you want to create this and throw ideas on a wall in the workshop. But when the workshop's done, you just have a ton of stuff. Well, one of the greatest things, whether it's our team doing it or the project lead at our clients, is they could take a picture of those sheets that have dozens of answers, put it in AI, and they could put it in a workable document. Before, either our consultants or someone on our team support or someone on their team would literally have to transcribe that for hours. Now it takes, probably less than a minute to get it all. So that's not fun. That's not productive. I would hate my job if I had to do that on either end. But now I could get to, all right, this doesn't apply. This is unrealistic. This, blah, blah. And now we can move around short and get to it. That's the power. And there's an endless amount of examples of that. That improves someone's job satisfaction.
I love that you brought up the creating a signature brand experience, the journey mapping process that we go through with our clients and that we teach in the academy, because that leads to this next point I want to make about creating a better experience, the personalization. The future service-centric organization will also have access to unprecedented amounts of customer data. But having the ability to personalize the experience does not automatically make that personalization beneficial. In July 2025, 3 U.S. senators challenged Delta Airlines over concerns that its AI-supported pricing model could eventually be used to determine what an individual customer might be willing to pay. That's scary. Delta responded that it did not use and did not plan to use personal data to set individualized fares. However, the public reaction quickly demonstrated how personalization can be perceived as surveillance or exploitation. Where's the line between using customer data or Ford that we talk about, family, occupation, recreation, dreams that we like to collect? Where's the line between using customer data to serve someone better and using it to extract the maximum amount of money from them?
Well, I mean, listen, this isn't new. All airlines, U.S. airlines, have been doing this long before technology, right? If you buy, a ticket for a trip 2 months in advance and I buy it 24 hours in advance, I'm paying 3 times more because they know I must be desperate, versus the opposite of we should be selling it cheaper so that, once the plane takes off, you can never resell that seat. It's also no different than, Uber does peak rates. So if there's a ball game downtown, a concert, whatever going on, you're going to pay 10 times as much than you will on a Monday at 8 p.m. versus, Saturday night at 8 p.m. And then, the oldest one is, what you pay on New Year's Eve for dinner. But then there's another one I just heard because my kids are getting married or just got married. I heard that if you go to a catering venue place and don't tell them it's for a wedding, but tell them it's for a birthday or whatever the occasion is, it'll be significantly less. But the moment you let them know it's for a wedding, the prices are dramatically more. So I don't know. I don't think this is anything new. And when you feel that you've been taken advantage of, especially when you're in a vulnerable place. I gotta, jump on a plane today for, a crisis, a last second meeting, whatever it may be, that's going to leave a bad taste in customers' mouth. They not only will probably less likely use you in the future, but what they're going to say about you. Integrity shouldn't be something that is outdated.
Agreed. But even that example is different than them looking up. I have an appointment to go into, your son's going in to find a venue for his wedding. And for them to look up and go, I see he's the son of John DiJulius, who owns multiple companies. And yeah.
Yeah. And people have said that to me in the industry. And so, obviously I don't know what percentage this is of speakers and consultants, but they charge based on the company size, which may or may not be right. We don't. I mean, we charge what we charge, what our day rate is or whatever, but I don't, see if it's a Fortune 100 company for, 2 hours of my time versus it's a mid-sized company. That's, my time is my time. Now, I do agree. In some cases with consulting, the bigger company is going to take a lot more support. But sometimes a smaller company takes a lot more support because they don't have the resources. They don't have the customer service department team to help them. So, this is nothing.
But we still don't do that based on company size. It's based on the project and
correct
the amount of days. It's a very
amount of days is usually going to be
cut.
Yes. Yeah. But I don't think this is anything new. I just think it's being reframed. It's like quiet quitting and, all those, that was just a new term put on something that's always happened.
PwC in 2025 had a customer experience survey that found 52% of consumers stopped using or buying from a brand because of a bad experience with its product or services. That same study found that 58% only somewhat comfortable or not comfortable at all using AI tools to engage with brands. The consequences are significant, yet many service organizations are still measured primarily by speed, average handle time, ticket volume, and cost per contact. Which traditional customer service metrics are now working against the creation of a truly service-centric organization?
Yeah, I mean, you could have things quick, but have a bad taste in your mouth, and you can have things, really, done well, but it took too long. It is a balance, right? I want efficiency, but I want a human being. You walk up to, order your latte, and she's a robot, but we got it really quick and it was right. That doesn't feel good to me. On the flip side, she says hi and asks me how my day is. Maybe she knows my order, but every time I take a sip, it's like Russian roulette. I want both. In most circumstances. But so it's really a balancing act. And what happens all the time is people, jump on the bandwagon and go too far to the one side. And then it becomes the opportunity. Right now, the customer experience, the human experience is the number way to weaponize your competitive advantage because so many people are going away from it.
So what do you think companies, like what are important KPIs for them to be measuring these days? Because, and I think this is even before AI, if you look at average handle time, it could encourage employees to rush customers.
Yeah, there's always unintended consequences. Yeah, 100%. So we have, podcasts and consulting and blogs on this. The NPS and customer satisfaction is way down as far as response rate. We have survey fatigue. So I always go back to if your business model allows for it, which, I think 80% do, is earned sales growth, which is looking at, where your new and returning customers are coming from or repeat customers. Are they being bought, which is advertising, or are they being earned, which is repeat and referrals? And that says everything. How likely are you to recommend us? There's a study, The Referral Gap Explained. Studies on customer referral behavior have found that while roughly 83% of satisfied customers say they are willing to refer the brands that they like, only 29% do. Think about that for a second, right? You almost certainly have a warehouse full of customers who like you, who would happily vouch for you, yet the overwhelming majority never do. Not because they're unhappy, because nothing in their experience ever gave them a story worth repeating or an easy, natural moment to repeat. That's the referral gap.
Wow. And that's a big gap too. All right, let's finish by making this highly practical. I'm going to name an area of the organization, and I want you to tell us what must be different in the future service-centric company. You ready? All right, leadership. What must leaders do differently?
They got to model the behavior, go show the proper way, and when necessary, use words. So being human-centric to team members will make them more human-centric. EX equals CX. Employee experience equals customer experience, and they have to focus on a few priorities and speak about them often. Jim Collins says in Good to Great, or said in Good to Great, great leaders talk about a few things constantly.
Employees, what authority and skills must employees have?
Well, so the skills are, they have to come AI ready if they can in their previous and current professional development. They have to be prepared for AI so they aren't eliminated and they can add value with AI, as well as they have to have the key service aptitude skills that are eroding, empathy, curiosity, ability to make a connection and build a rapport, being a good listener, diffusing an upset customer, making a brilliant comeback, the energy that you want to have to be around, friendly, positive, genuinely like others, and the enthusiasm. All those are the 10 service aptitude skills that are declining and disappearing. So companies need to make sure they're training and adding that not only to their onboarding, but everboarding continuously, because, we won't find enough of the younger generation, and no fault to their own, that will have those skill sets.
Okay. Technology. What should AI handle, and what should it never be allowed to decide alone?
All the repetitive tasks, that's clear tasks, but nothing with integrity and ethics. It could start, but you have to be able to have, people handling that. AI should never deliver a sensitive topic to a patient, a customer. That should always be done by a human being that's well trained to deliver that. It should never be the one that tells a person that they got declined for a loan, a mortgage. That has to be delivered by a human being. Anything with finance or health should be delivered by a human being.
Organizational design. Which walls or silos must disappear?
God, all of them. I mean, we have to work as a team, team of cross-department collaboration. Everyone needs to understand that they have a customer and who their customer is, and what I do or don't do well today, how it impacts my customer. And that could be the person in the cube next to me. That could be person at the store or operations or in the field that's serving our customer. And obviously that could be the end customer, depending on what position you have. But everyone needs to understand the part that they play in the success of the customer.
Okay, measurement. What should every executive team be reviewing?
Each department has its own KPIs, and they need to, but everyone needs to understand the KPIs that report up to the chief experience officer and the CEO, which is earned sales growth, on time, customer complaints. I mean, there's so many, and it all depends on the business model. But what they're impacting of the customer outcome is. So if earned sales is going down, there has to be, cause and effect of what, each department, why that's happening. Why are we overpromising? Why aren't we in the certainty business? Why aren't we updating our customers when things are not being delivered as promised?
Customer access. When must a customer be able to reach a human?
When they want to. Bottom line, when they want to.
I like that answer. Trust. What is one use of company data that organizations should refuse, even if it might increase revenue?
What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. So I think from, our conversation earlier in here, I think there is a lot of information that should remain private about an individual. And I think anything that's going to affect how you profile, whether it's income or anything else, I think shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, the pricing based on size or vulnerability, crisis, or what someone's willing to pay. I mean, that's why you have first class and coach, or, premium versus this and upgrades. Great. Let people choose. But we shouldn't be choosing for them as businesses that we can charge them more because they will pay it.
Okay, John, if a CEO listening today wants to determine whether the company's becoming service-centric or merely more automated, what is the first question that CEO should ask?
How is this making a customer feel? And that's really, to me, what the experience is all about. How do they feel doing business with you? Was that easy? And do I feel better as a result of doing business with you? And usually an app, a website, a self-service channel is not by itself going to make someone feel great.
The future service-centric organization will not be the company with the most technology, the fewer employees, or the fastest chatbot. It will be the organization that uses technology to eliminate friction, gives employees the authority to use judgment, and makes every department accountable for the experience it helps create. Customer service may stop being a department, but service must become the operating system of the entire company. And it's really important that people have their systems down before they start laying the AI on top of it. So again, listeners, we would love to help you with creating those, because we know that's the most important part, is creating those different systems before you start with the AI. Get a hold of us, schedule a call. We're happy to talk to you, tdg.click/call. And we can talk about if the Academy is right for you, if consulting is right for you, or maybe even joining our live stream. Thanks for listening to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share it with your team. Visit theDiJuliusGroup.com for more strategies. John, thank you so much. And we're going to look forward to seeing those blogs when they come out that you talked about today.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time, listeners.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and are ready to think about starting your own customer service revolution. To get inspired by more episodes, subscribe now on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening and for being part of the Customer Service Revolution.